for us to look at our world not only from a linear perspective, but from a non-linear perspective. So when the Buddha said that everything is impermanent, he was really referring and having us check in to this aspect of seeing this change and understanding this change of impermanence from a linear perspective, so that we can understand it from a non-linear perspective. So what this boils down to is really the ego, or what we could say the small self or the big self. So we're throwing all these different terms in here that many of us have heard before, like the self with the small s, being the ego or the small self, and then the big self, the understanding and knowing thyself, is the self with the capital S. And when we suffer, when we have pain in our lives, and when we feel as if things aren't complete, things aren't working out for us, there's surely a feeling that there is a me that is experiencing this world from this linear perspective. My past, even my presence and my future. So we have this fear and this anger that can arise, based on this. But when we and most of us as meditators know this from experience, that when we see the world from a non-linear perspective, when we're sitting and resting in that place of presence, that stillness, that is just the absolute truth of what is going on right now, which is that there's this person sitting here breathing, and that all these experiences that we have is just it's the thinking and the feeling and the perception and all these emotions that come and rise and they fall away from this linear perspective. But there's this non-linear part of us that is not identified as the experiencer, as just the witness of what is happening, but not affected by the perception and everything that the egoic self or the small self takes in from the world. And this has been talked about from a non-dual perspective, from a spiritual perspective, from a scientific perspective, from a probably a drugged out acid trip perspective, and all these different ways of speaking about this. But to make it as simple as possible, I thought maybe we would do a meditation, based on this, so that I don't keep on throwing out the same words and try to, justify an understanding based on the words that I'm using, but perhaps really based on our own understanding, our own experiential understanding through our meditation practice of what it means to be a part of life, not the experiencer of life, but be a part of life in a non-linear fashion, where there is none of past and future experiences that are a part of our current experience, but just the beingness, of who we are, the absolute truth of who we are. A lot of people, some people might call this God. Some people might see this as a unconditional love, a part of this experience of unconditional love, which is still an experience or still a state for a lot of people. But it's really a higher, in many ways, uh, uh, David Hawkins called it a higher look of, from consciousness, from the standpoint of, he had a graph, and from the low 100s up to the 800s, I believe. And he said from the area of 600 above, it's easy to understand this. And then maybe we'll talk about that some other time. Um, but it's a view from a higher consciousness, higher consciousness slash awareness. And so, but a person doesn't have to be super spiritual or ultra spiritual or anything like that to understand and have a taste of this. So I thought we would look at this in our meditation tonight and see how it goes, and maybe have a few moments to talk about it once we get done with the meditation. First of all, are there any questions from anybody about this before we start? And please make yourself comfortable and gently close the eyes. There's many reasons why people meditate, and probably the most common one is just to distress and to feel better about their lives and feel better about themselves physically and emotionally. Because it's a proven method. It's very inexpensive. It's very easy to do. If a person is consistent, it almost certainly works for everyone. The only people that I have not really seen meditation work for is the people that were unable to do it at a consistent level, consistent basis, or people that had some kind of a mental handicap where they could not actually concentrate or sit still long enough to meditate. But for the average person, meditation is a proven method to be happier because we understand ourselves at a deeper level. And this deeper level isn't necessarily a deeper perspective of our feelings and emotions, our thoughts, a deeper understanding of our memories, or all of the experiences or perceptions that we had throughout our life and how they come together. That's not the deeper understanding that necessarily makes a person feel more complete, more whole in their life. So the understanding that we're referring to is the understanding of the truth of what we are and how we experience the world, how the world is actually experienced. And for a lot of people, this could be registered or felt as the ultimate truth or a deeper understanding. And basically, in order for a person to be genuinely happy, this understanding is pretty important. Because this understanding doesn't come from our small self, what I'll call the small self. From the understanding of having everything in order in life. And from feeling as if everything's coming together in life. But it's more from understanding that we are complete without having to relate to the things that have happened as a human living in the past and remembering our past and having this anticipation for the future. And this is, at least this is an area that this can be understood and seen. And so in meditation, we bring our attention to something as mundane as the breath. And we just simply sit and feel the breath within the body, not looking for anything else, certainly not looking for insights or looking for those aha moments. But we could notice the things that trigger us and then bring our attention back to the breath. The things that we're afraid of or the things that cause some aspect of us being upset, and then come back to the breath, or even things that cause happiness for us, things that cause joy for us, and then come back to the breath. And I'm just using the breath as an example of something to focus on to bring about this presence. And of course, this is a practice. This is a practice that is done in order for us to really kind of temporarily get a glimpse and a feeling of this deep, profound oneness that is beyond any kind of egoic experience as a person that is experiencing the world, but more as consciousness itself. We know that the body dies. We know that the mind changes at the time of death. Our memories, for the most part, are scattered and gone. Our perceptions really don't matter. Many of us are very fearful at the time of death. But the thing that carries on is the consciousness or the awareness that doesn't die. And this could be open to debate, of course, but this can be experienced now. And that it can be experienced by just allowing the ego to, or the small self, to not be present, not be a part of what is happening at this moment. And again, this is a practice. And so there's really nobody meditating. There's nobody trying to achieve a meditation or become a better meditator. It's just something that is happening. And this is probably as close to our natural, true state as anything that we can do. When we're sleeping, the subconscious is releasing all sorts of energy. And when we're going about our days and working, all sorts of egoic things happening. And hopefully we can lessen that, through the practice of meditation by understanding that these things don't have to be that way, that we can have this clarity of the truth of who we are, the self with a capital S, knowing ourselves. See if this is true for yourself. We'll sit in silence for a while and see how it feels for you. I'll come back. Keeping the eyes closed and the mind very still and the body very still. Just see if you can share or use this experience of that we can speak about here, which is the mind having memories, the mind not necessarily staying with the meditation object, the body having these physical feelings, the mind experiencing states, emotions, and moods. In our memory, going back into the things that have happened, the mind planning for the future events, some type of anticipation. And just see and notice these things happening without any kind of desire to control them. Really, no desire to fight the mind to go back to your meditation object at this point. Just see if you can be the one that is witnessing that you are not necessarily the experiencer, but the one that can sit back and watch this happening within your own mind. Seeing the mind have desires, the body hearing and perceiving life in the moment, memories, everything that the mind and body does. But what is that consciousness that recognizes that? What is being or can be aware of that? And notice if there's any aspect of what we might refer to as the ego that is a part of the past and a part of the experiencing, but not part of the one that can view this from this different place. The self with the understanding. The self that can be one with everything. The self that is not separate from anything else. For the last couple of minutes of this meditation, just bring your attention to the breath if it's not there already. Take a nice deep inhalation. See how that feels. Maybe a couple of more. Deeper than normal inhalations. And bring your hands together in front of your heart if you like. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we meet with spiritual and worldly success. May we have the patience, courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or difficulties that we might face in life.